Welcome to another episode of Mindset Makeovers. Today, I am humbled and so excited to bring to you a legendary being that genuinely holds a golden thread that connects me to friends, teachers, guides, allies, mirrors, mentors, and sisters. And I am beyond excited to introduce her to anyone that hasn't stumbled across the incredible luck in this life to be known by her. Moun D'Simone is a spiritual mentor, meditation guide, and artist, as well as an ineffable, loving force of goodness. Her embodied wisdom and deep understandings of Tibetan Buddhism and modern psychology is shared in a warm, playful, and relatable way, making her everybody's spiritual godmother. And I'm getting emotional as I introduce you, my love.
I'm getting emotional too. I'm like, wow, this intro, I need it. Wow.
Welcome, Moun. Thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness, my love. What an intro. Thank you, Lena. Thank you so much for having me and for articulating beautiful words that, I'm honored and excited to be chatting with you and deepen our relationship and friendship as well in this way. So thanks for having me, my love.
I'm excited to record this conversation. I know there are a lot of sisters that I have, like I mentioned in the intro, have met through some sort of interaction with you or, of course, your brother, Sa. And I know they're going to be excited to be able to hear us in conversation together. But I'm also very excited to introduce you to parts of my community here in Australia that maybe, like I said, haven't had the luck yet to stumble across some of your incredible content and shares and just presence. So I'm excited for this today. And I was reflecting today thinking, I can't really remember how I first came across what you share and who you are, but the impact that your work and the way that you articulate the ancient wisdom and the way that you relate to life and the way you show up and share your relationships on social media, I think has been one of the things that has made a profound impact on me. Seeing the way that you love your friends, you love your family, the way you are a sister and a daughter and a friend and that spiritual fairy godmother to people has become aspirational. Like I think of you in the way that I relate to the women that I support now. And I was fortunate enough being in one of your program offerings last year to have one-on-one time with you. And I came into that session and I guess I didn't necessarily know what I needed or what I wanted from that time with you. And I just recall just asking some dumb shit and coming away from that thinking like, I just felt like you're pulling faces like, I don't remember that. Just feeling like I was just talking for the sake of talking. I was giving lip service to our time. I didn't feel like, that I said anything that felt truly like substantial or current or present to me. And in reflecting on that, I think what I actually needed from you at that time, what I should have asked for is just, can we meditate together? Can I just be in your presence? Can I calibrate myself to your nervous system? Because that's what I needed. And so I'm wondering if you could please open this conversation by speaking to what it means to have a nervous system that people can trust. And if that's something that we aspire to do or to be for others, some considerations that we might like to take on for ourselves.
Well, I have to say, my love, that I have a different memory from that session, a very different one, to be totally honest. And I know that sometimes, parts of us get in the way because we have ideas of how we want things to go. But I do want to tell you that I didn't feel like you were filling the space. I feel like there were perhaps a sense of like very practical questions that you were ready to ask. And sometimes they may feel like they're quote unquote dumb, as you said, but I think sometimes we do have to make things very practical. And that's what I remember, but you were so present and you were so open. So I just wanted to just reflect that to you. And thank you for, what a beautiful question. I feel that, I'm going on almost 9 years of real devoted spiritual practice, of having a real, let's say, relationship with my practice, with my potential, with life, and really seeing how everything is really a reflection of how I'm interacting with myself. And I have seen the immense shift in my own health, in my own, ease because of the practice. And I feel that this is obviously a potential that everyone has to have a more regulated and more relaxed and easeful and perhaps even more open, in a sense, nervous system, because sometimes things get very busy and tight and racing in there. That's just the conditioning of our minds right now. We're going and there's so much information. We're always taking more in. And I think that what I have found is I really have, I guess I have trained myself to really come back to the present moment as often as I can. And that I see how it shifts, because of course I do have a very, reliant morning practice and an evening practice, and that's incredible. And I also see the immense shift in my nervous system and in my being when I can be so present with someone and notice, oh wow, look at the stories, they're judging, they're comparing, they're going here. I'm future thinking, or I'm rehashing the past. And I'm like, but I'm actually here. I think that just remembering, where am I in this moment, and continuously asking myself what else is here, not biting the hook of one story, has helped me tremendously to have a more regulated nervous system. And I also have to say that not shying away from the challenges of being a human, being a woman. I've had the greatest challenge there was this last few years to be with my mom, and it's very vivid, as you know. So I'm actually grateful in the sense that even while she was still here, I was like, what a trip it is to say thanks to cancer. I always thought, was like, what's happening to us, and for the first year, of course, there was so much rage and so much anger. And then when I started to realize how that was literally my practice, it shifted my whole life. And this last 4 years were actually incredible in so many ways. And I think that my meditation practice as a living practice completely changed because I was faced with that edge of being with someone that was fighting this disease. And wow, I'm surprised at how emotional I'm getting. So thank you. Just really having that willingness to be in the practice. I had the honor and the privilege to be by her side for most of the last 4 years. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is because sometimes it's easier to bypass the real human experiences when we're so devoted to being super spiritual or having a practice. But the actual practice is meeting the experiences themselves. And I really did do that. And I think that really changed something in me. It allowed me to just trust myself so much more and trust my path and actually be able to rely on my own innate qualities, which AKA is a more balanced nervous system that I can rely on my breath. I can rely on the generosity, the patience, the equanimity that is already in all of us. So I think, of course, it's aspirational for everyone. I think we all carry, I truly do believe, and I know we all carry that same pearl-like hidden potential, that perhaps it is truly deeply hidden under the mud of our conditioning and our fears and our unmet emotions and unmet traumas. But it doesn't mean that it's non-existent for some people. I think it just depends on, of course, the karma that you're working with and the willingness that you have to go to those places. And of course, I was willing to go there, but I don't remember ever thinking, is this that I had a choice? It was bigger than me to be in those spaces and to hold that kind of space for myself, for my family, for my mom. And that transformed my life, and it continues to do so. It continues to do so. It's interesting. I read this beautiful quote by Mirabai Starr, who wrote Wild Mercy. I think I mentioned her on the Dakini course that you were in. And it's definitely on one of my top books, especially for female practitioners. But she said the difference between a female mystic is that she is not so much devoted to ascending and getting out of here, essentially, quote unquote. She's more ready and willing to work with everything. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, these are not her words. To work with everything, to meet the challenges, and to accept, let's say, the hand that she's been dealt, the karma, and work with that and see that as exactly her practice. And I think that has been what has, like you said, regulated my nervous system in a way that the prior 5 years of deep practice hadn't. I was still shying away from some parts. And I guess I was still a little selfish in a way, bypassing some things. And that's just what happens, especially in the beginning of a practice. And yeah, long-winded answer to your question, my love. So bless all. What a life. Thank you.
The repetition of your practice, I think, is also reflected in the repetition of your messaging and the shares that you offer us so eloquently and beautifully and playfully on social media. And I think one of the things that I know has come from you, a languaging that I use, is life as the practice, and truly understanding that. And one of the other things that has come from you that has been really impactful is to not just understand, but to know, to believe, to actualize the inner knowing that there are parts of us that are already innately at ease. And there is always a part of us that is okay. Could you speak to that, explain that a little more, and what it looks like in real time when we are faced with something that is undeniably painful and rocking us from the outside in, to know and trust that there are always parts of us that are innately at ease, and maybe how the fuck we access them when when they seem really kind of, untouchable in moments.
Right. I feel like the first thing is sometimes you have to pretend like you believe that part is there. Let's say, depending where you are in your journey, I have this deep inner knowing, right? I do know that it's there and I can truly rely on it. And I feel like, obviously you too, you are a seasoned practitioner, but if someone's listening to this and they're like, no, life's been full of tragedy, so insane, I don't believe that, quote unquote, only bad things happen. And I hear that. And at the same time, you are still here, right? Because you are still here, there is still a way, one part, and also there is still something carrying you forward. There is still something holding you. And from a Buddhist perspective, this is known as something that we are inherently, we come into this world with that. It's like, it's that Buddha nature, it's your soul, it's your higher self, it's that innate potential. So within the many parts of us, that potential is essentially the sky that's around and surrounding all of it. And it is hidden, like I said. It could be like, it's very hard to access because the rooms are very cluttered. You know what I mean? It's essentially like the walls and the floors of your inner home, but the home is so packed, it's so filled with stuff, with unmet and unprocessed and limitations, that you can't actually see the original color or essence of the home. So I would say, if you are at that space, sometimes you just have to trick your mind to say, okay, I'm going to pretend like this is real and I'm going to try it. I mean, we pretend stuff all the time, so why not just pretend something that may actually turn me into a real knowing? Because through that, you will realize that it is actually true. It doesn't hurt to try and say, okay, I'm going to pretend. So when you are in a difficult situation, you can say, all right, I'm having this really difficult time. One way is just to say, what else is here, right? That's how you practice. You literally bring emptiness, that, right? Nothing is fixed or solid. And there's always so many different parts of the experience and everything is always changing. You can bring that into your practice to ask, first of all, what else is here? And you keep asking, what else is here? What else is here? And you keep peeling away and you say, okay, of course, there's a fear, there's a judgment, there's a doubt. And if you can be really devoted and trusting, you will arrive at a part of you that's like, maybe there is a way, right? Maybe I am okay. Maybe I can take a deeper breath. Maybe I can reach out to a friend, or maybe I can shake my body. Maybe I can feel my feet on the ground. Maybe I can just say, I'm grateful that I'm in this very terrible situation, and I can be aware that this is a situation, that this is a passing emotion, that this is not my fixed reality. Because what tends to happen is that we believe that what is happening is who we are. That's the first quote unquote mistake that we all make. Like the Buddha said, that the root of our suffering is truly the ignorance that we have about who we really are. So we grow up believing, I am where I live, I am the parents that I have, or I am the limitations in my mind, I am what I don't have, I am what I want, I am what's not working, I am the limiting beliefs, or I am my traumas, or I am the the terrible things that happen, or I am the grief that I feel every day. Those are just parts of your experience. And until they're actually processed and worked with, you have this misbelief that they're fixed and solid, but they actually are not. You know, even the grief that I'm experiencing, I look back and I see how it's always changing, how it's always moving, how it's always this like wave. And that's the same thing with every emotion and every experience, even a memory that you have. So just coming back to how do we do that in the moment is just to even just give yourself that reminder. It's like, I'm still here. And because I'm still here, there is a way. Can I take a breath and ask what else is here? And I often think it's also so important to talk about this stuff. You know, I think it's incredibly necessary to talk about it, because sometimes when we're going through hardship and troubled times and we're keeping them all to ourselves, they feel like really big monsters in our minds that there is no way around it. And even sometimes when you just speak them out, or you give them up to your paper, to your journal, or you reach out to a friend, space arises. You know, all we're asking, all we're trying to create is space, because in that internal space, there is more space to recognize, oh, there is that little part. Oh, there is that little something. It's just like the clouds, you know, if you're looking, you see, okay, there's a bunch of clouds, there's a bunch of clouds. And then suddenly the clouds move, and suddenly there's more awareness of the actual crystal clear blue sky that is always there. And that's what we're trying to do, you know, is just have more awareness, more contact with the crystal clear blue sky that is that Buddha nature, that is that potential, that is that part of us that has all the wisdom, has all the potential, the power, the creativity to move through anything, and to again see, this is my practice, right? And how do I get to work with this? Yeah.
I recognized last year really working with this understanding in your teachings as a practice, the way that if I applied it to myself and really held myself to account in using life as the practice and seeing if I could find the space within me, and then being courageous enough to believe for that innate goodness to arise and to embody more of that, it positively impacted my relationships. And I found in moments of tension with my husband in particular, where he would do things that are just problematic in terms of the adaptive response, or just how annoying it is when he does certain things that trigger certain things within me, I found it revolutionary, like truly, that I was having this moment where I was taking the exhale, recognizing that the irritation and frustration and curse words were building up within me that could direct me towards the things that I have trouble with in what I see or feel or, you know, experience in those moments. But that I also had the opportunity to remind myself of his Buddha nature and his innate goodness and the love that I still have for him that resides right alongside the frustration. And I was finding these moments of choice where I was able to ask myself, cool, which way do you want to go with this? Which side of him do you want to see? Which side are you going to polish right now? And there was one argument in particular where there was something that he had done that was problematic. You know, it wasn't catastrophic to the relationship, but it was problematic. It caused harm. It hurt me. And he knew it was a mistake. You know, it was something that he had done and it was a mistake. And it was in that moment where I could have just spoken to the mistake and told him a bigger story about how the mistake had really upset me. And I realized and recognized in that moment, I had the opportunity to support him and hold him and let him know that I loved him despite the mistake. And Moon, I had never done that. I had never decided to be like, the innate goodness in me sees the innate goodness in you, and we're going to move forward with that. And we're going to let the mistake be the mistake, and we'll let the lesson arise, and we will deal with that. But here in the pain of a moment that could tear us apart further, I'm actually going to choose closeness. And I swear to you, as it was happening, it was like I was like a conscious observer of it all, going like, whoa, what is happening? So I would love if you could just speak more to the way that recognizing these qualities within us actually supports us in recognizing it in others, and how it becomes this really reciprocal, self-sustaining kind of experience that benefits all beings, essentially.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, my love. I got goosebumps just hearing the story and seeing how it is revolutionary, you know, and it is hard work, because what happens is, because we are hurting, and we know hurt people, but what does that mean is that because we are hurting within ourselves, And we are conditioned to think that the hurt's coming from the outside, that we're blaming and we're finding guilt and shame in our surroundings and the people around us, or even within ourselves, right? Instead of realizing, oh, wow, this happened. And again, what else is here? Can I work within myself? Because like you said, you can only have that level of spacious awareness to relate to him, holding his potential and the current very human mistakes, hurt that he's causing, because you are holding that within you as well. You know, we can't expect that we're going to be able to see loving in other people if we can't see that within us. And it's not like, well, let me just heal myself fully so then I can go have the relationships. You know, a client said this to me the other day, and I'm like, no, my love, it's actually in the relationships that you deepen your own loving in your own relationship. But of course, we need a little bit of like a little stability. Like you needed to have done a little bit of like inner working with yourself, right? To tend. And it comes from a place of like, I know I've hurt people and I've hurt myself. And I also recognize that I'm not those mistakes, right? And there is a part of me that's always loving and kind. Can I essentially, like bring this part forward and help me to have this sense of inner reconciliation with myself, with the things that I have done, so that I can do the same with others, instead of over identifying, holding ourselves as I'm the thing that I did and you are the bad mistake and you are that hurt that you caused. That's actually very easy. It's like we're trying to have an easy life. So we just stay in the surf and say, you did something bad, so you're bad, right? You hurt someone, so that, but it's also the society that we live. It is like you cheated, then you are a cheater, instead of like you made a mistake. Is there a way that you want to reconcile, that you want to talk about it, that you want to understand what happened and how you want to not do the same thing in the future? But that requires so much compassion. It requires so much understanding. It also requires us to believe that people have this innate goodness, and it's not the easiest thing to do, but I feel like it's where we are arriving, with the level of the way the world is going. I think it's that pendulum that has to swing back, that and take people, we have to also, I just wanted to add this, like, you have had to take responsibility for your own healing to be able to then show up as an inspiration and an invitation to your husband in the example that you did. You have had to be like, okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm working with, and I'm taking responsibility for what's in front of me, what's in my plate, what's in the street, essentially. And can I support you in doing that? That's really what you're doing. We're being, like you said, we are being agents. We are being a force of love, remembering that we are impacting everyone around us instead of just creating more and more separation. Because the last thing I just want to say, it's like when we are identifying with those wounds and those traumas, we're totally separate from that potential, from that truth. A wound and a trauma is a separation, is that compartmentalized of that's who I am, that's what I did, that's, instead of the healing is wholeness, right? Healing is becoming whole again with that truth. And yeah, it takes a lot of work, and it takes so much. It's really humbling to say, oh, wow, I did do those things. Oh, wow, I did hurt that people. Oh, wow, you hurt me and I love you. Right? I love you and I don't like you right now, and I want to work on this. It's like, to be able to do that, it's terrifying. But again, is your commitment to fight? Is your commitment to be right? Or is your commitment to be loving, to be free together? Those are very different things. You are committed to being free together. You are committed to being a force of love everywhere you are. So you will say, that hurt me, and there's a loving part in you as well. Let's work with it, right? Let's talk about it. That's why communication is so important, to communicate instead of blame and pretend and hide things out. And I also feel that, yes, like I said, it is hard work, but it's not impossible. It's just a brand new muscle that we're learning to exercise. And when you do, there's the resilience and there's the reliance on those parts to move through life. And yeah, it really depends, like, what's really driving you, right? What's really driving how you want to show up in the world? Do you want to be right and alone and hard, or do you want to be loving and free and connected and expressed? You have to make a choice. You can't have a little bit of both. It's one or the other. And it requires so much vulnerability. Like, you have to be extremely vulnerable to say, I love you, and maybe I don't like you right now, and that hurt me, and I want to see the loving in you. It requires a lot of vulnerability from you as well.
And truthfully, I think it was deeply healing for me to offer that to somebody, because in another time and space, it was me that had made the mistake and I wasn't offered that softness and that forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that hurt. And that hurt. And so I know that hurt and I know that pain and I know how much work it's taken me to know that I can forgive myself. But also now I know I don't ever want to be the person that is punishing others. That is the catalyst for them having to do that same work that I've had to do within myself. I don't want that to be me. So this is how it's life as the practice, and it all feeds us exactly the nourishment that we need for whatever it is that we're supposed to be, being fed and sharing and putting on the table, I guess. The other thing that, of course, I wanted to ask you about, Moun, and if you could just give a quick little bit of context for anybody listening, is around your 3 months in silence. So could I, before my question, could I ask you to just give a little bit of context to support everybody listening?
Yeah. It's interesting. I was just thinking about the retreat this morning. So it's obviously we've been connecting already even before we started the call. So it's a very traditional thing in Tibetan Buddhism, in the lineage that, I have taken refuge, that I've been practicing for all these years, that you begin to take a longer retreat. You begin with like 10 days, 7 days, 10 days, and then it expands to like 1 month. And then the next one, that's part of the preliminary practices that everyone takes if you've taken refuge and you're following the practice in a way, is this 3-month Vajrasattva purification retreat. And I knew about this retreat, and at first I was like, oh, this is too much. So just a little more context. So this is a traditional Buddhist practice that you are practicing purifying your mind, and not from the way that we are conditioned to think, but it's more around, like we said before, it's more around peeling away the layers of our conditioning, of those fears, of those unmet emotions, to really allow the real potential, the Buddha nature of all of us to rise, to be the guiding force, So it's like we're just cleaning the way. So that's why we call purifying, just like putting down the burdens or letting things go. And if on a more, Western way, it could be seen also as like there's a lot of forgiveness, right? There's a lot of like experiencing genuine remorse for the things that you did, and recognize that you are not what you did. Yet we're holding on to everything that we've thought, said, and done in the past, unless we've processed it, we've learned from it, and we've found ways to integrate it into our lives. So you spend the 3 months just taking a really close, clear, radical, hard look at your inner world, for 8 hours every single day for 90 days, no days off. We're doing that practice. And the other aspect of the practice is to chant the long Vajrasattva mantra 100,000 times. So it was full power. It was insane. It was incredible. It was also one of the most powerful experiences that I've ever had, to be all I had to do. I mean, I had the privilege to take 3 months completely off of work, of everything, and just be in the monastery and practicing. And I understand that that's not the case for everyone. However, there are ways to incorporate those practices in your daily life. So I also have found that, just as a little parenthesis, that this is the kind of life that works for me, right? That I come and I teach and I share, and I'm traveling and I'm in the cities and I'm in the world. And then I have to take those time to just be in the monastery, or to just be in pilgrimage, and to just be in the practice. That's really what allows me to have this regenerative relationship with myself, with the way that I serve, and with my potential. So thankfully, I'm able to do that. And the practice really just does something. It's almost like absurd when you stop to think about it, because you're sitting there and every day you're just looking at what you've thought, said, and done your whole life. You just keep going and you keep going. And it arrives at a day that you're like, okay, what else is here? And then stuff arises, and we're looking at limiting beliefs. We're looking at thought patterns. We're looking at things we've done. We're looking at things that we've hidden. We're looking at things that we've done with our bodies, that we've done towards others. And you may feel like it's really heavy, but you're not looking to identify. You're looking to work with it and to let it go. So it's extremely liberating. It is extremely freeing, because everything that we're still holding on to is in a way impacting. Not in a way, it is completely impacting. Literally, it's like a filter that shapes the way we see ourselves, and we see our reality, and we see others. So when you clean out that filter, right, or when you release the filters, you get to actually see the real potential, the real clearer like you get to see things for what they really are instead of how you're holding on to things. So yeah.
It's twisting my mind as I really deeply listen to what you're saying, because I think so much of I guess a Western approach to self-awareness is about turning inwards and kind of like working with our processing to understand ourselves more. And as I listen to you, it's almost like the experience that you're sharing is quite the opposite. It's like turning inwards, not to identify with anything that's there at all, but to kind of clear most of it out and to really be free of the story of who you have told yourself you are. It's
exactly.
It's interesting. And I feel like there's only like, not to sound ostracizing or alienating, but I think there's a certain level of inner work you have had to have already done to understand just how like mind bending it is to listen to what you've actually like gone and done for 3 months, to actually do that and do that again and do that again, and to be held in the fire of that practice. I heard you refer to it as taking refuge. Can you speak to just what that means in your lineage?
Yeah.
Clearly?
Yeah. So in a sense, taking refuge is that you are, let me see if I can make this very, very like modern and approachable. You are committing to yourself and to the lineage, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. You are committing to the teachings, and you are committing yourself really to rely on that. Refuge is just, we're taking refuge all day. We're taking refuge in the coffee, in the shopping, in our relationships, in our emotions. Taking refuge just means you go for refuge. You rely on that for some kind of support or some kind of, alliance or some kind of like, yeah, it's some kind of like you want to feel held, you want to feel supported. We're doing that unconsciously all the time. So from a Buddhist perspective, we're given this choice to say, take refuge and then rely on the teachings, rely on the teacher, rely on the Sangha, and commit to practice and commit to your own Buddha nature, So I took refuge. I mean, for me, it was like also very easy. I obviously, whether you believe in past lives or not, I do. I definitely believe that I have been doing this for many lifetimes, because hearing the teachings of the Buddha wasn't hard for me at all. You know what I mean? I was on that first 10-day retreat in 2014, and my teacher was just speaking. I was just like I was looking for that my entire life, and I didn't know it was Buddhism. I didn't know it was that language. So when I was given the opportunity, do you want to take refuge? Do you want to deepen your relationship with your own practice? That's really what it is. I'm deepening my relationship with my practice, with my potential, knowing that I can count on those forces, those places of refuge to support me, which is the teachings, my own potential, the Dharma itself is the teachings, and then the community, the Sangha, knowing that I can go and allow myself to be seen and to be held. And it is revolutionary. And I don't think that it needs to be as traditional as I did. It's more around like, what are you using as your own places of support? Like, what are you really relying on? Are you relying on those limiting beliefs? Are you relying on over-identifying with emotions? Are you relying on those friendships that actually don't inspire you and ignite you? Or are you relying on that terrible negative self-talk? Or you want to rely on a practice or on a new but deeper, more truthful way of seeing yourself and the world? For me, I think it's been completely revolutionary, and I feel completely held by it, because also I've allowed myself to be supported. I allow myself to fall down and break and know that there's always something within me and around me holding whatever it is that I'm experiencing, and not judging. That also is something about the practice, about the 3-month retreat, that whatever it is that's brought into the practice, it's never at all too much, too bad, it's never looked at anyway. You can bring, I like to say, you can bring Rajasafa anything, and she just holds it with you. You know what I mean? She's like that epic grandmother, godmother, that's like, whatever you have thought, said, and done, it's not who you really are. And it requires awareness. It requires to be seen, to be released. Yeah, and the refuge is necessary. Otherwise, you're kind of just working with something, but parts of you are like, I don't think so. So you got to say, I'm going to believe in this shit for a bit. You got to give it a try. You got to say, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And then you get to decide afterwards. That's also something so profound about Buddhism. Obviously, I'm extremely biased to talk about it because it's changed and transformed my life so much, but you can use this for any other, way of thinking that you're working with, those of you that are listening. It's more around, like, I'm going to test this material, right? I'm going to test these teachings. I'm going to apply them. I'm going to offer myself an extensive amount of time, at least 30 days, to stay with this practice, to try these teachings, to read the book, to apply this in my life, to watch my speech, to watch my mind, to watch my actions, and then I will decide if I want to carry on. And I'm very likely to think that most people will say, okay, this shit works, because it does. Because at the end, what it's reminding us is that we are the ones that have the power to orient our minds to wherever it is that we want. So it's not like, it's like the power is not really anywhere besides within ourselves already,
I remember because you went for that 3 months just after the Dakini course that I had taken with you. It wasn't long after that. And I remember myself and the other women, we were all genuinely like wishing you well, but also thanking you as you went, like thanking you to have the courage and to create the space and to have the audacity to actually go and do that. Not just as the example, but because of who you be and what you bring back, so it's such a, it sounds like such a personal thing, but it's actually such a generous offering that you use yourself and your life in this way. So I thank you again for that. I would love, and I know we're running out of time, but I would love for you to extend on what you just said, because I think it's so needed and necessary for people to hear, that before we can decide what is, I was going to say right and wrong, and I definitely don't mean right and wrong, but before we can decide whether something is going to be supportive for us, there we go, found my language, or not. Yeah. How necessary understanding what it means to be devoted to something and actually applying ourselves to something and coming correctly to something actually is. So many things that I offer, and I'll use SAR method as a very clear example. As I'm bringing this forward and creating offerings, there have been people that are interested, magnetized, engage with it initially, don't really take it on for themselves in a way that would allow them to actually see it as a practice or appreciate any of the merit or benefits that can be accumulated through practice. And will say things in passing to me like, yeah, I just don't really feel like it's right for me right now. Or I'm not vibing it is the thing that I hear. And I have to hold space for, all people to do whatever they want to do. It's never me saying, well, come on, did you even try? Did you do it? I didn't. I can see your logins. I know you didn't do it at all. Leaving the grace and space for people to do as they please. But I would love if you could just, as the spiritual godmother to all of us, speak to the importance of actually at some point finding something and learning what it means to apply ourselves and devote ourselves to it as a way to actually support ourselves.
Yeah. My love, I constantly find that as well, as in the spaces as well, people sign up and then they don't come and this and that. And I'm often like, but did you try? And, I've learned that we have to give people the dignity of their own journeys, right? And it may not be the time, because and I don't say this lightly, this is hard work, because we're asking with these practices, especially, because you've studied with Sai, especially if you come from a Buddhist perspective, you're asking everyone to take an immense amount of responsibility for what you've done, what you've said. You're not blaming or putting guilt or saying mommy, daddy, anything, you know what I mean? You're just saying, well, this is what I've got to work with. So I have to do the heavy lifting of getting to know myself and choosing what I want. And that is truly hard work, but it is possible. Look at how many people, it's kind of like, it's a proven fact that the shit works. And it really only makes a difference if you apply yourself. It's easy to read the things and to regurgitate the text and everything, but then it stays very surface, it stays very limited. And I've learned after so many years to accept that sometimes it's not the time for certain people, but if you really want to get to truly know yourself and honor the blessing and the gift and the preciousness that it is to be alive and to have this incredible human experience, give yourself the space and say, okay, I'm going to really apply myself and I'm going to try it. And I'm going to look at all the parts and recognize that I'm working with a lot of different parts of me. I'm working with a lot of judgment, a lot of fear, a lot of everything. And so is everyone else, right? So is everyone else. And I'm going to try. So I always talk about, it's like, there's a story of the Buddha that the Buddha said, don't take what I'm saying as true at all. The practice only really becomes yours, becomes wisdom. Otherwise, it's just knowledge floating around, but it really only becomes wisdom when you apply it. So you have to say, okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to exhaust myself. I'm going to exhaust those karmic seeds to really get to know the bottom of the real truth. And that requires immense work. But when you do, you realize what's really possible, right? And you have to sit to then uncover that knowing and that truth. And then the wisdom really becomes yours because you've walked yourself through that fire. And it's not really for everyone, especially nowadays that there's so much like, wellness and this world is super trendy, right? As we know, it's like really cool to be in a wellness space and to have a meditation practice, which I'm glad, of course, I'm so glad. And at the same time, there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of surface spiritual bypassing. And it's also everyone's journey is their own journey. That's why we get to act as inspiration to others and offer them those spaces and say, okay, well, when you are ready, we can't really force them. You can drag anyone, but your hand's always open to help them and to guide them, but they have to be willing to say, I want support, I'm ready for it. And it requires time and space and so much patience because it doesn't really happen overnight. You're purifying decades of stuff that's been there and then lifetimes of shit that you haven't looked at, so, but it's possible. And it does require this way of like, I'm going to really give this a try. It's like you're trying a new diet. I'm going to try this diet. I'm going to try being whatever, vegetarian, keto, whatever it may be. I know we've all been there. I'm going to see if this helps my gut a little more. You have to give it some time to see if it really does make a difference. And then you get to decide, oh, this route really works for my gut. That's what we're doing. This route really works for my mind and for my heart. And the last thing that I want to say is that the level of fulfillment that you experience by devoting yourself and the level of connection that you really experience is the real meaning of being a human. Like we didn't come here to shop, to buy, to distract, to accumulate stuff. Sure, we love nice things. Of course we do. And it's not just about that. We came here to experience a deeper sense of love and connection and potential. We came here to support others as well, to offer something, to create something incredible out of our lives, out of our hardships. There's an artist within all of us that's just waiting to be fully expressed. It's not like everyone's a musician or a writer. It's like an actual artist of being a human, of working with your history. And that in of itself is so fulfilling because you get to your deathbed and you look back and you say, wow, I really did live fully, instead of like, yeah, I kind of didn't do it. And then you're filled with regrets and then it's too late, and I think when we think about deathbed, we think, oh, there's so much time. Oh, I'll do it when I have the time. I'll do it when the kids are not here. And I'm like, no, the practice is here. Your practice is with your kids right now. It's in the office that you work. It's in the city that you live. That is the exact practice right now. It's not when you have the time. Like death could happen at any moment. And we know that. It's like, and it's gone. And there's no like warning. So I really believe that contemplating death is also such a powerful thing to ignite a deeper, more devoted practice, because you wake up and you're like, oh, what a blessing. It happened again. It could have not happened, but we think it does. It's so funny, just adding to this, I was calling this studio the other day to reserve a place to record something here in New York. And I'm calling today to reserve a place for tomorrow. And I tell the woman, okay, great. So we're all set. She's like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, I hope so. She's like, what do you mean? And I was just like, well, I really do hope I'm still here so I can go and do this thing. And she's just like, of course it will be. And I'm like, oh, my love, there is no guarantee. And she got kind of like, she's like, alrighty then, thank you so much. See you then. obviously it got uncomfortable, right? But that's also my job. It is to stretch, because it's true. There is no actual guarantee that the days will keep coming, So, and I'm not saying you need to give up everything and go full out today. I'm saying do at least one little thing. You know what I mean? Do one little thing. It's like clean a little corner of the inner home, like say I love you, or say I'm thinking of you, or take that nap that you want, or reach out to that friend. I'm talking like small things, and then they plant the seeds for something else. So it really allows us to appreciate how precious it is to even have this conversation, to even be curious about this stuff, because most people are so deeply drowning in their own suffering that they can't even hear it. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that we're hearing, that we're talking, is real privilege to have this curiosity, to have that mind that is open enough. And it's like, let's do something with it. You know what I mean? Let's try for a little more loving, because why not? Right?
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Before we talk about the ways that people can book you now for one-on-one, which I saw on your website, and the list of offerings, so delicious. So delicious. We'll get to that.
Thank you, my love.
I was wondering if I could ask you to just reflect if there's anything on your heart, anything that arose within your practice maybe this morning that you would be willing as a final offering to just share, if there's anything more.
Yeah, I came across this thought. This thought arose in my mind a couple of days ago, and I have been really thinking about it. That it's never too late to start something. Right? It's never actually too late to forgive, or to love a little more, or to say that I love you, or to start the thing, or to give yourself a little more loving. I think sometimes people are like, oh, it's just too late. This is who I am. This is just what I do. It's just too late to even say, I don't want to work here anymore, or this relationship doesn't work, or I want to move. I really see that there's so many people that do think it's too late. And I just want to remind myself and everyone that's never actually too late. And if you're having that insight, or that trigger, trigger is not actually a negative thing, it's just something that's being triggered in you. So if you're having that trigger to question something, to challenge something, to reach out to that person, or to do whatever it is that could actually support you to feel a little bit more at ease and more loving within yourself, I would just say, go, my love, just do it. Just try a little bit, because it could be the exact turn that you really do need. And I think it's also super important to recognize that nothing really does happen overnight, and everything that does happen is a culmination of a lot of really small, tiny, perhaps hidden steps, little thoughts here and there, the words that you said, the little actions that you took. All of those things are adding up. So maybe it's just, let me just think about this for 5 minutes. Let me just dream this up for a moment, and then let me tell a friend, or let me do a little research, or let me just go out and take that class that I've been dreaming, or let me just sleep for an extra hour, or be in the cushion, or paint that thing. I know it sounds very like, oh yeah, but it's like a little thing does go a long way. And there isn't a magic pill that will change everything overnight. It is really you tending to that garden a little bit each day. And if you tend a little bit today, it's not too late. And if you forgot, or if you've fallen off, it's not too late to restart, to just give yourself that utterly compassionate action to say, I'm going to give myself another chance. I'm going to give myself another chance. I'm going to give this person a chance. It doesn't mean that you want to be in that relationship, but just give them a chance to know that they're loved and that you wish them well, and it's extremely beneficial for you. Like you said earlier, it's really for you. You love people for you. And I'm not saying this in a selfish way, but like loving people helps you. It opens your heart to trusting, to receiving. Loving people doesn't mean you like them, you agree with them, or you want to be their best friend. It just means that you wish them well. And I was reading all this insane news this morning about what's happening in Tennessee. And I mean, the States stuff is real. And I was just like, I got a little like, whoa. And I was like, okay, what can I do? Okay, what can I do right now is just send a prayer, right? Is do a little bit more research, inform myself. But I can say, wow, I really disagree with these people and I wish them well. I really do wish that they can come to their senses and think about the people and think about whatever it is that is most beneficial. And I was like, okay, well, that's all I can do right now. And I feel a little overwhelmed. And I said, the identifying with the overwhelm also doesn't help me. So yeah, I think it's really important to accept that we have this capacity to stretch ourselves more than we think we can. I mean, there's a few different things I just gave you, right? I mean, of course, I go on and on and on, and my mind gets excited. My heart gets excited. So yeah, I think giving ourselves the opportunity to stretch and to challenge what we believe possible goes a long way.
I love what you just said about like we can stretch beyond what we might imagine or what we might have experienced within ourselves. And I think relating to people that we've had problematic relationships with maybe for decades, and we don't necessarily need to repair the relationship in real time, but just the way that we think of them, and even just the capacity, even if we can't wish them well, just not to wish, be, I guess, perpetuating punishing thoughts anymore, to just find a more neutral, revolutionary. That's enough sometimes. That if you can do that within yourself, you're like, whoa, good job. Good job today. Yeah. Thank you. There's always so much that you offer, and I always appreciate that next little bit to do is always so manageable and so digestible. So thank you. There's such a depth of wisdom, but always such a practical, okay, I could do that today, that comes from you. So thank you, my love. Can we please speak to, and can you please share, because I don't know how recently your offerings have just been shaken up just slightly to be presented in such an exciting way. I've got it here on my screen in front of me, but I would love for you to speak about the individualized sessions that I can see on your website.
Yeah. It wasn't too long ago that I was just having this thought about one-on-one work and the work that I do in the groups. And I realized that, being in a group may not be the most beneficial for some people at certain times in their lives. And also some people may want support, but they don't know exactly what. So I just really decided to have a more clear buffet, if you will, of offerings, that whether you are looking for more healing in the way that you communicate, or inner child, or, more ways that you get to express yourself creatively, there are options. So the intention was that, you would come to the website and be like, okay, I want to work with Moun and I want one-on-one support. Let's see if there's any of these that really do work for me, or you want to transform anger into joy, or you just want to establish a more deep Buddhist meditation practice. So the idea is that, obviously, and also if you're like, I don't know, just come and we'll do a session, or we'll have a call, or we'll figure it out. But the original idea was that sometimes it doesn't work for people to be in groups. And I've taught most of that stuff in different groups and different formats. And I wanted to give that option for one-on-one as well, because I know personally how much depth it comes to from being one-on-one with a mentor and a teacher, or someone that's really guiding you and supporting you. Yeah, that's really the intention behind that, and to have more playfulness with the way that we also heal, and sometimes people think like, oh, wow, there's so much to do. And I was like, let's work with one thing. Let's work with the inner child, or let's work with the way that you communicate, or let's work with your creative expression, or let's work with, working with grief, or let's work with your anger. It's like, of course, everything is so connected and really comes together in some way or another, but sometimes it's important to work with, quote unquote, the biggest thing that's in your healing curriculum right now, And then the other option is to just go on a full deep dive mentorship container with me that, we just kind of get to really do a very incredible exploration of your inner world and work with everything that's there. And that's always so exciting for me as well, because I just love being with people, whether it's one-on-one or in the community, and get to really mirror that back to them. And it's funny because I was rewriting some things on my website, and I realized it's not like coaching and it's not like therapy. There's a little bit of both, and there is that sense of like the Buddhist studies. So there's that sense of like their spiritual teachings. But then because of my contemplative psychotherapy training, there is a very nurturing, specific way that feels like therapy, that I hold people and I reflect things back to them. But I also get, like you said, such a beautiful reflection. And thank you, that I like things to go really big and wide and spiritual and vast, but also like practical, because we're still living in the world. You're still a woman who's a mom and a wife living in the house, blah, 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 blah. And how do you apply these things? And what are the steps? So it's holding both, which could be seen as polarities or dualities, but together, right? And making that your practice. So I find that is how I live, right? So that's also how I guide and share and serve.
I highly recommend to anybody listening, there's one called Modern Dakini Initiation. Now, full disclosure, I did a Dakini program that was a group program. Amazing. Completely amazing. I cannot imagine how that is to do it in a one-on-one situation. So that would be the one if you consider yourself or you aspire to be a teacher, a guide, a friend that truly supports in any way. Definitely, if you mother in any way, if you caregive in any way, you will get so much out of that one. So, I mean, they all look wonderful, but that's my hot tip. I'd go straight to that one. If you look, because like me, I feel Moon, people will look at it and be like, oh my God, I want to do all of that. And if you're not in a place to do all of it with Moon, if you can't deep dive into the mentorship, that's the one I would, that one.
Yeah.
My love. Thank you so much in this. And I really recommend, if you have just felt into the energies and the wisdom of what Moon has shared, like I have done many times in other recordings of hers, listen to this in a couple of weeks again, and maybe in a couple of months again, and you will just hear things, and things will deepen, and things will arise within you. That inner teacher within you will arise to kind of collaborate with us in this conversation. You'll be talking back to us too. And that's when you know the work has started for you. So I thank you, Moon, so deeply for offering this time. I've been saying again and again, you are a real one, because there are so many people that talk about making themselves available to support and being there for community. And when it comes time to actually supporting people within their community, they're all of a sudden too busy, or they can't hear us, or they won't reach down. And so I thank you for just really being exactly who you are and embodying everything that we know to be true about you. So thank you.
Thank you, my love. This has been such an honor and a joy. And I just want to reflect back to you that what you see in me is in you. You couldn't really see any of this if it wasn't there. So thanks for being such a beautiful mirror as well, and asking incredible questions. And thanks for doing the work that you do, and for having me. It was such a joy. Thank you. I have missed seeing your face, so thank you.
Thank you. I will have all of Moon's details in show notes. I definitely recommend that you hop onto her Instagram page for just real-time, beautiful reflections and reminders that will genuinely support you and your practice, and seeing life as the practice. Moun D'Simone, thank you.
Thank you, my love.